Ladies and gentlemen, trade war has officially started between US and Canada and potentially spreading over to Mexico and China. And the stock market has already responded with a massive crash on the S&P fund and the Nasdaq. We're going to see in today's video what on earth is happening and what we think the response will be moving forward. Let's watch on, shall we? Trade war is something that we hope don't happen, but it has already happened. Now, I've already said that if Donald Trump were to just slap on tariffs onto some of the other parties, and if they don't respond, that's okay. But you know what? They have responded. So let's watch on, shall we? So to start off, Trump has slapped tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. Trump has slapped on 25% on imports from Mexico and Canada, as well as a 10% on China. And energy resources from Canada will have a 10% tariff, but across the board, 25, 25, 10. If Canada, China, and Mexico did not respond, then I think the stock market will be okay. But unfortunately, they have responded. Canada have hit back with retaliatory tariffs on US, and China and Mexico say that they will respond, and we don't know what response will be yet, but they say they will respond, and as a result, by definition, we have a trade war. And trade war in a tit-for-tat kind of a response is always very bad for the stock market. On Saturday, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order imposing a tariff on all imports from Mexico and Canada, as well as a 10% tariff from China. Now, specifically for Canada, which US import a lot of energy from, for energy resources, Donald Trump has lowered the tariff for 10% so as to minimize disruptive impact from gasoline and oil and home heating oil prices. And this is something that is very bad because it's potentially inflationary, but it's not as bad as when Mexico, Canada, and China responds. Donald Trump has actually done this because of three main reasons. Number one, there is a major threat from illegal immigrants. Number two, there's a lot of drugs that are coming in from Mexico and from Canada, and they are all manufactured in US. And number three is there is a huge trade deficit with these three countries, and US needs to correct that. So these tariffs will apply from tomorrow onwards. And more importantly, Trump's administration actually said this: if any country would choose to retaliate in any way, the signal will be to take further action with respect to the likely increased tariff. Now, these three countries are the biggest trade partners of US. And US does about $1.6 trillion in annual business with these three countries. And I think he hoped to extract some bargaining chip by using tariffs. Well, frankly speaking, if Donald Trump were to just use this justification, which is illegal immigrants and drugs, I think somehow there's a high moral ground. But he keep reiterating that it's also because of trade deficit, hundreds of billions of dollars of trade deficit with these countries, and he's not very happy about it. So he's going to use this to correct it. So as a result, these countries are not going to sit there doing nothing. Now, Trump actually knows that tariff is going to cause some pain locally. Now, who pays for the tariffs? A lot of people don't understand that. It isn't China, it isn't Canadians, it isn't Mexicans, it is Americans that are paying for the tariffs. So when the goods come in, there's an increase in tariff of 25%. The local importer pays the tariff. So as a result, the pain of the tariff is actually first felt by Americans. Now, frankly speaking, if I am the importer, and if there's an increase in tariff, I will start looking for alternatives. That's what Trump hopes, okay? Trump is not an idiot. He's a very powerful, strong businessman. He understands this. But in the short term, most of these importers have to look for alternatives, and it's not going to be overnight. So there'll be a short-term pain minimally. So Trump knows that, right? But what he says is this: will there be pain? Yes, maybe. Trump wrote in his own social media platform, but we will make America great again, and it will be all worth the price that must be paid. So he also said that he wants Canada to be a US state. That's way too much, okay? And he said that US pays hundreds of billions of dollars to subsidize Canada, and without this massive subsidy, Canada will cease to exist as a viable country. So he will hit on Canada very hard. So it is true. I think there'll be some inflationary pain to United States in the short term, but I think the pain will be far more for Canada, Mexico, and potentially China as well. Now, these moves are, in my opinion, intended for all these countries to play ball with US, and Trump has been emboldened by all this tariff action because of what Colombia reacted. So if you recall, a week plus ago, United States immigration round up a lot of illegal Colombian residents in US and actually send them back in two aircraft. Colombia stopped this aircraft from coming in, and immediately Trump slapped on massive tariff on Colombia, and Colombia immediately reacted by playing ball with US and accepting all these airplanes to correct this problem. So Trump said, "You see how powerful my tariff is." So that's why he's doing it on all these countries right now. I think at this juncture, we need to emphasize again. Under the new executive order, these tariffs would escalate if China, Mexico, and Canada retaliate in any way against the US. And guess what? They are retaliating. So number one, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau just slapped retaliatory tariff of 25% against $155 billion of US goods soon after US hit them with their tariffs. So a massive response have just been enacted in Canada. So Prime Minister Justin said that duties on $30 billion of US goods will be imposed on Tuesday, and with a tariff on further $125 billion worth of products to be introduced in 21 days to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to find alternatives. So many things, right? American beer, wine, bourbon, fruits, fruit juice, orange juice, vegetable, perfume, clothing, shoes, everything. All these will be slapped on goods coming into Canada from US. All of them will have massive tariff increase. What did Mexico do? Well, Mexico President Claudia actually said that they will respond and they will have a plan B. President Claudia slams Trump tariffs and said that she has instructed Secretary of Economy to implement plan B that they've been working on, which includes tariff and non-tariff measure in defense of Mexico interests. So Mexico is very specific. I will respond with tariff and non-tariff measure. China, on the other hand, also say that they will respond, but their response to the countermeasure at this point of time seems a bit vague. What they say, number one, is fentanyl is a US problem, not my problem, okay? We make fentanyl for legitimate reasons. You guys use it and abuse it, and it became my problem. How can that be, right? So synthetic opioid fentanyl is an addictive drug that causes hundreds of thousands of deaths in US each year, and the chemicals that make the drug are produced mainly in China and Mexico. So China response is, this is your problem, not my problem. And China also said that I'll take this issue up with WTO. So you did something against the rules, and we're going to take it up with World Trade Organization. Frankly speaking, China doesn't seem to be responding that hard. Okay, that's because they are only hit with 10%. I suspect that there is some working level rumbling and basically saying that we're willing to solve this thing out, right? Unlike Mexico and Canada. So I think China is potentially playing ball. Another reason could be Trump realized that he cannot find alternatives to China products easily, so he slapped with 10%, right? Whatever reason is, China is having a sign of relief. Why the softening stance towards China? Inflation. Trump knows that Canada and Mexico is far more dependent on US than US depend on them. So hit them up with 25% and they'll play ball. Well, China is a different story. Chinese economy don't depend on US a lot. So only 15% of its exports go to US compared to 80% for Canada and Mexico. So, he hit them only 10%. Well, Beijing has one trick up its sleeve: currency devaluation. So everybody is looking at how Beijing will react. So most likely, Beijing would devalue the yuan against the US, and that will correct the 10% tariff that Trump is hitting on them. We shall see whether this is happening. Certainly, Beijing is breathing a sign of relief. Okay, 10% not so bad, because remember, Trump promised to hit them with a 60% tax, but you know what? That has been reduced now to 10%. Of course, Trump could react and increase the tariff gradually. But Trump is not an idiot. He may look volatile, but he knows what he's doing. So all these things are happening is all very bad. Now, I've said in my earlier video, if it's just one direction, not so bad. When it's tit for tat, wow, that's where things get worse because prices will escalate. Then interest rate will have to increase. And when interest rate increase, bond prices crash and stock prices crash. And that's very bad. So how would the US be hit? Let's watch anecdotally what are some of the items that go up. Number one, tomatoes and avocado. So US import $38 billion of agricultural goods from Mexico, and large part of the fruits and vegetables from Mexico goes to US. And right now, 90% of avocados eaten in US are from Mexico. So prices of all these will go up. These vegetables also include tomatoes, cucumbers, lime, mango, blah, blah, blah. So vegetables will go up. Cars and motor vehicle parts will also go up in prices because a lot of them come from Canada. And Mexico and Canada account for $120 billion worth of US motor vehicles product. And then prices in this part is going to go up as well. Gas prices. Mexico and Canada export 70% of crude oil into US. And as a result, this will send crude oil prices going up, and that's going to be very bad. The stock market has already reacted, okay? And right now, we are potentially seeing a 2% decline in S&P 500 and a 2.5% decline in the NASDAQ. And we don't know the full impact yet, but I think it's going to be very bad. Let me sum up this saga. Tit for tat trade wars have a big impact on stock market. If it's just one direction, it's okay. But unfortunately, the war is now started. I think that US now will respond with a higher tax. And as a result, some of these countries will respond with a higher tax. And then go boom, 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 boom. I think that in the short run, there's potentially very inflationary. Remember, I've said again, if it's just a one-time jump, not so bad. But trade wars have this ability to go up and up and up and up in terms of the tariffs. And as a result, prices will go up and up and up and up and up and up. And therefore, they are very inflationary. Inflationary is always bad for the stock market. So I think it's important this week. We'll see whether Donald Trump will retaliate. My guess is he will. Canada knows that, Mexico knows that, and China knows that. My take is that the Canadian, Mexico, and Chinese officials will try to negotiate with Trump administration and see whether they can come to a ceasefire in that sense. But I think in the short run, I think this is going to be very bad. So in a nutshell, brace for impact, brace for volatility in the stock market. In 2018, there was a trade war as well, okay? The impact was felt, but it's short term, okay? This time around, the scale seems to be more massive. It's hard to say. I'm going to just watch and see. And I think there'll be a lot of volatility and impact to the stock market. And, we need to brace for impact, okay? So thank you for watching. This is an important breaking news. We need to watch and see what will happen. My guess is more volatility and more impact will come. But we need to prepare ourselves to make sure that we can handle this volatility and impact, okay? Thanks for watching. We'll be watching this space closely and see what's going to happen. Thank you, and I'll see you in a day or two.